What's up, everybody? We are live now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. This is Winslow from the Creative Hole Podcast, and that is Hilario. And
What's up,
this
everybody?
is the Creative Hole Podcast. So you might notice that isn't Carlos. Carlos has the sniffles or something, and hopefully he's well. Hopefully he gets well. So today's episode of the Creative Hole Podcast, I'm going to sit down here with Hilario from Lugos Engraving, kind of talk about his beginnings in, I guess, being creative and everything like that, and where he is now with his creative journey and where he started. So I've known him. How long have I known you for?
Oh man,
15 years?
I think longer than that. I know since at least 05. I know that. Yeah.
Oh, that's like 18 years?
Yeah, it's been a minute, bro.
Wowzer.
It's been a minute. Yeah, I got in Hanford in 2004, and we met briefly after that in Boogie's right around 2005, bro.
Yep. Yeah, so me and Hilario have known each other for some time now. And so if you can, go check him out on Instagram, and it's at Lugos_engraving. So at LUGOS _ engraving, ENGRAVING. That's how you spell it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, just making sure.
Thanks for
that's what we do around here sometimes. So little backstory real quick is one of the reasons when I heard when Carlos told me that he was going to be sick, that one of the first people that I thought about was Hilario. And one of the first reasons why I thought about Hilario was we've always chopped it up and had like deep conversations and stuff like that. And I've always wanted to, I guess, have a conversation with him. And so I thought, well, since Carlos isn't here, I'm going to have Hilario. So here he is. And are we having technical difficulties again?
Yeah, I still I can see everything on my end. I hear well.
Okay, I don't know if my end is oh, there you are. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if it was my end or not. So yeah, so that's why I brought on Hilario. So Hilario, he does a lot of metal engraving, right? What would you consider yourself in engraving? Like a lot of metals?
Well, the terminology we use nowadays is automotive engraving.
Okay.
So yeah, we work or large scale metal engraving. We do a lot of work, custom engraving on like lowriders and motorcycles and custom cars, things like that.
Okay. And have you ever, I don't know, been in any magazines or anything like that?
Yeah. Been
I remember.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I'll be honest. Sometimes I'll mess with like we were in one recently, a small publication out of Texas, and I was showing my youngest daughter to see your dad's famous. I was messing with her, you know what I mean? But no, man, it's very humbling, brother. I mean, you know how we came up and everything, So to be recognized for something that you do, man, is very humbling. It's really cool, man.
Okay, so I just kind of went like mid career, I guess, in automotive engraving. So now what I'm going to ask is, so where did your creative journey start? Like, did you kind of draw here and there when you were younger? How did all that go?
Oh yeah. As far as I can remember, man, I can remember being what I can remember from being as young as it would have to be 4, 5. I have an uncle, my mom's brother, who's only like 7 years older than me, and he would draw. To me, he was like the coolest dude, you know. So I wanted to be like him. So I started drawing too, and you know, we had these magazines. They were called Teen Angel magazine. You ever heard of those?
The what?
Teen Angel magazine.
No, I don't think I have.
It's basically it was kind of like the social media in those days where like a lot of the jail guys would send in
Oh
their
yeah,
art,
yeah, yeah. I
you
have
know.
seen those.
Yeah. So that's where I learned how to draw, man. You know, so I would try to copy all those magazines, and I noticed it, uh, for sure making me like
Hold on
when
really
you
quick.
did.
I think I am having technical difficulties.
Oh,
I am. So you know what? We might be back.
okay.
Yo, yo,
Right on, right on.
we're back.
Good to go.
That's right. So, Teen Angel magazine.
Yeah, that's where I learned to draw, man. I would copy, and right away, man, I was really drawn to the black and white type of drawing, the collages, that type of stuff, cartoonish type of work. But I remember as far back as being first, second grade, whenever we would have like creative time in class, you know, when I would sit down and draw, the a lot of the other kids would get around my desk and they would be ever impressed by what I was drawing, you know, like, oh, he's drawing this, he's drawing that, and I loved it. You know what I mean? I try to be cool, act like I didn't care, but
You're like,
you know, yeah,
deep inside,
So
you're all giddy.
so yeah. You know, so that's when it started, man. I want to say like in middle school, high school, I would do drawings like for my girlfriends at the time, you know, because I never had any money, you know, so I would make them drawings. And a little bit after high school, I tried tattooing like with the homemade machine, tattoo machine, and I butchered some
Heartstring?
people. Yeah. Hey, I tried picking it up later in life too, and I
I
butchered
know.
one of my buddies. Yeah, you know. Anyways, I always been into art. Could just never figure out a way to do it to get paid doing it. You know what I mean? And so actually, a little bit after we met, um, I got this. I was tired of cooking because that's what I did prior. You know, from the mid
Chef life?
'90s. Yeah, just live the chef life. You
Stay
know,
greasy?
staying greasy. Yep.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir. Yes, sir. Um, so from the mid '90s up to the mid 2000s, that's what I did. You know, for a living. But I was just tired of it. Just tired of not making any money. A lot of it had to do with my attitude. I had a poor attitude.
Yep.
But anyways, I decided to quit my job and become an artist, and it was a huge fail. You know, so so much unnecessary stress and strife in the early years. You know, but I stuck to it. You know, a couple of adventures happened. Be, obviously between the
From your first failure?
yeah to up to this point, and maybe we'll get a little deeper into those section parts. But yeah,
So,
right now it's pretty good.
so now what would you have done? Is there something that you would have done different? Like, even though you know that you knew that you didn't want to do, you didn't want to be a chef or anything anymore. Like, you're kind of done with that. Like, you wanted to pretty much do something creative that, in a sense, like paid the bills. Is there something that you could have did different that you thought maybe would have helped you farther, like maybe stay in the chef game for a little bit longer?
Yeah, that's looking back on it. Yeah, if I would have been a little bit more wise and set aside a nice chunk of change, I could have taken some engraving classes, you know, while I still had a day job, purchased all my equipment, and then transitioned, you know, because I recently taken some classes myself to try to up my game, you know what I mean? And it's been very helpful. So it's
Always
kind of
about
like,
educating yourself.
correct. So it's kind of like, man, I wish woulda, coulda, shoulda, you know, but yeah, one of the main things I would have did is I would have been a lot more
And so,
smarter about
so
it.
I guess one thing that I'm trying to, I guess, get out is so whoever it is, young, old, middle aged, whoever, that they don't have to go through the hardships that we went through, with whatever thing that we chose to do. And so that's why I was asking you about, like, if there was something else that you could have did, because I'm sure by you just kind of quitting and going into into engraving in general, we'll probably get into that here in a little bit, but into engraving in general, there was probably a lot of ups and downs, and there was probably a lot of stress, because now all you had was whatever you would get off of that. Correct?
Correct.
So, yeah, I would definitely see, like, how you're saying about going at it with, I don't know, like saving up for some tools, taking some more classes in order to make you into, I guess, less stress.
And it would have definitely shaved a lot of years off the learning curve. You know, I don't want to get off the subject, but I want to believe a lot of it had to do, one of the things I would have changed would have been my attitude. I think that was the one that was always coming back
Haunt
to
you?
get me. Poor attitude, prideful, ignorant, pridefully ignorant. You know what I mean? It's just no one could tell me nothing.
Nope.
Couldn't keep a job, you know. So the attitude was a huge obstacle, man.
And it's only until we, because in kind of in this book that we're kind of going over, me and Carlos will probably go over it next week, which is, it's hard to fix the things that you don't know.
Correct.
So if you don't know that you need an attitude adjustment, then you're not going to force yourself to have an attitude adjustment.
Correct.
And how long did it take you for you to actually be aware enough that you're like, maybe it's me?
Oh man, I'm still working on it, but I want to say right around 2012, I had a real eye-opening experience in my life, and it was like, if I keep going this way, uh, you know how this story ends, So that's when I realized, like, hey man, it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up, or it's time to shape up. I was already 35 at that time, 47 now. So yeah, late bloomer, bro.
And we all are. And I think that's like a big thing. I feel for us is we want, I don't know, the next generation, I don't know, even people that are our age, to bypass everything that we could have kind of jumped over and not had to worry about.
Correct. I'm sure you hear it said, and there's some truth to it, that things happen for a reason. What you went through make you who you are today. But I want to say there's a few events that I don't think were necessary. You know what I mean? A few negative events that I was like, I didn't have to experience that for myself, you know?
You're like, no, thanks.
Yeah. I think it still would have been all right without experiencing that, you know?
Yep. So what were some of the ups and downs of this creative journey of yours?
Okay, well, we'll say the downs first. You know, some of the downs were it was very difficult for me to gain traction in this business because I'm an outsider. You know, I'm not a true car builder, motorcycle builder. You know, I always grew up loving those, you know, going to the car shows and seeing that stuff. You know, but I didn't grow up like with, you know, in the garage and my uncle was fixing cars and things like that. You know, so not being in the mix was kind of a big hurdle. You know, and not being very social on my end didn't help either. You know, so that was some of the downs. You know, trying to establish a reputation and all that, you know, the learning the lessons. Those are the downs, but some of the ups are, you know, I get to meet a lot of cool people. You know, I get to see, you know, some of the art that I create. I get to see it. You know, it brings joy to certain people. You know, every now and then, it's okay. I don't mean to come off as and this is one of the ups, and hopefully I word it more or less okay, but I'll be honest, man, it's a really awesome feeling, like when you're showing your work at a car show, and like your followers from or some of your followers from social media come up and meet you and take it. They want to take a picture with you and things like that. It's like it's it's so crazy.
It's
You know,
weird.
it is really weird. You know, it's like wow. You know what I mean? Uh, for not being anybody famous or anything like that. You know what I mean? To we can still sometimes have an effect on other people without realizing it. You know, so but I think it's really cool, man, and I think it's really cool that you know it's opened doors for me that weren't open before, and I think one of the other things too is it's taught me a lot. It helped me grow a lot. It helped me to be responsible. You know, being my own boss. You know, on the cool side, like yeah, I gotta go to work when I want to and all that. But on the flip side of it is like there's no one to blame if something
Nope.
goes wrong. You
Goes
know,
to you.
correct. I can't blame the boss. I can't blame anybody or anything. So it helping me to become responsible is one of the ups of it as well.
I mean, I guess you could blame the boss, but then ultimately you're just blaming yourself. So,
Hey, I almost fired myself like 5 times.
uh, um, so like within these ups and downs, like how did you process? We'll go with the downs. Like, how did you process the downs? Did you get trapped in the man, I can't do this, like I might as well just quit, or like what was it?
Okay, well, there's pre 2012 and post 2012. Pre 2012, I would just quit, or argue
Easiest
with the
thing.
or argue with the clients. Hey, you know what? Whatever, come get your stuff. Uh, Post 2012, uh, I started to grow and like kind of like what you used to say, man. Just either go or deal with it. You know what I mean? And it's so simple, and it is, but it's also at the same time easier said than done, or can be easier said than done. Because we want stuff. Yeah, man. I think the downs, not having anyone to blame, helped me to be more take accountability. That's it. That's the word I was looking for.
And it's hard to take accountability at times. especially when it falls back on yourself.
Correct. You know, it's a double-edged sword, or it can be a double-edged sword sometimes, because you know we have to accept responsibility. Sometimes we might have a legit excuse to blame someone, or to, act in an unprofessional manner, but at the same time, that's where we got to deal with the downs a little bit, where we have to learn how to deal with people, because even though the work I do is pretty much solitary, still have to provide customer service, and deal with the people, and I learned to put myself in other people's shoes with empathy, how to empathize with people as well, to kind of see where they're coming from. It's a trip. Like, for example, sometimes somebody may have had a bad experience with another engraver, and when they come to me, they bring that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how, like, people do in relationships. Sometimes when they have a bad relationship, they bring that into their new relationship. So yeah, it's a trip, man. It's a trip dealing with the different characters, different types of people.
And then also, even hold on real quick.
Yep.
So what I was going to say is, almost even dealing with like hard customers, I feel like it's a lot easier to still blame yourself, even though, yes, it is them acting however they're acting, but ultimately, like, we chose it. We chose this customer for whatever reasoning that we chose them. We still chose them, and so sometimes I think it takes the wisdom of our older self at that point to push away the I want to tell you something right now because I think you're doing me wrong. And probably pre 2012, maybe it would have been a lot different. Post, it made it a little bit easier.
Correct. Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with as you know, with anything, with your work as well, communication. So sometimes, like, if something, and it's a learning process. So let's say I do one project, and it's like, man, I spent too much time on that. I didn't make enough on that. Now I know for next time. Or you know you can have, like you say, like, let's say, terms and conditions, to make things clear before you take on a project, so that way um, you try to avoid any type of as much miscommunication as possible, and that applies to life as well, I believe. you know
So do you contribute how you were to how you are now? And when I mean now, maybe the past like 5-10 years, like, is there any one thing that has helped you become a better person?
Hey, man, the only thing that made a change was God, bro. What I mean, I don't mean to call him the only thing. you know God, he saved me, bro. What I mean, changed, flipped flipped it around, did a complete 180. You know what I mean? Even into a 360. Yeah, bro. It's kind of like, once those scales come off of your eyes, it's difficult to act like you don't know better now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to go back to resort to your old ways of dealing with situations, because you know better.
Your fleshy ways.
Correct. We can no longer say, well, we didn't know. Even though we're not perfect, we're gonna fall, slip and fall. Um, at least we have an instruction manual. You know what I mean? And we have a father who's available you know, 24 hours a day, you know. So yeah, man, without God, bro, uh, I don't even know, you know. Even on the daily, when I let him down, I'm still like, oh man, you know. But yeah, bro, that was a huge, huge change in my life right there, man.
Because especially like me knowing you from like back in the day, we were a little bit different. Um, Not saying that we were like off the chain or anything, but in a sense, we might have been off the chain. Um, just not maybe to the degree of others, but I feel like both of us, like God has definitely, and I think one of the big things that I get with the relationship with God is my convictions, because my convictions make me turn a different way, and it's probably for the best. Because if I would have went left instead of right, it could have been a lot worse.
Hey, yeah, brother. And I know we, I think we both started getting into the word right around the same time too. I believe, you know, right around that 2012 ish, right around there. So yeah, man, it's been an amazing journey. I will admit that you know, I feel a little bit like a backslider right now. I don't spend as much time in prayer or reading as I did. You know, it's been a crazy journey. The spiritual journey it's been crazy. And I mean in a positive way. You know, for lack of better words. You know, from the initial being saved to being just so happy not to be a slave to some of the old vices. You know, to being a living testimony in your family. You know, sometimes we go to church, or we may visit a church, and there may be a special guest there giving a testimony, and it may be an awesome testimony, but we don't know how they were before. So like, as far as we know, is like, you know, but when people who know you, who see you on the daily, see a change, like, you know, because we can act one way in front of people and act another way behind closed doors, you know. But when the people behind closed doors see the change in you, you know, that's I think that's a pretty powerful testimony.
And it's weird because I think once I got saved, I feel like in certain circumstances, I'll still like try to, in a sense, like be more outgoing and be more whatever situation I'm in. Because for the most part, like I can go into any situation and in a sense fit in. But there are some situations that I go into and I try to revert a little bit back to my old self. Um, but it's hard for me to do it. And we'll just say like simple things like um I don't know, just trying to, I don't know, have a few beers throughout the night, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna try that and see where that lands me, because it typically derails my like happiness in a sense. So I'll try to do that, and then, but after, I don't know, an hour of it or whatever, I'm kind of like, like I'm not even down for that. Just like cussing, like I used to cuss like quite a bit. Um, and I believe probably when we first were hanging out, I think I probably cussed. I'm not 100% sure, but what I am sure of is like now, like it's hard for me to do it. Like that's just not a part of me. And I feel like God has convicted me on that, because like I would do it way too much. And it's like and it talks about it in James, pretty much, where it discusses like how can I pretty much how can cuss words come out of my mouth and at the same time praise and worship come out of my mouth. Like those two things shouldn't exist in the same realm, I guess.
Correct. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The sweet and bitter water. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, bro. Well, hey, that's in secular terms, that's a huge deal. To change the way you speak, especially when the the foul language would come so naturally. You know what I mean?
Too
So
naturally.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome, man.
But I mean, and there's even times where I feel like I'm gonna probably sound, I don't know, like a better word's dumb. Especially when I was a counselor for the youth, because then they'd be like, "What are you even talking about?" Because I would say like quit acting like a butthead instead of quit acting like the sh head or whatever, and they're like, "What are you even talking about?" Like it doesn't have like that umph to it, but
Yeah.
that's the only way that I know how to say it now. Like that's the only way that I'm going to say it. So I always have to, like when I'm speaking, I'm aware of when a cuss word would come up, but I replace it with something else that's not a cuss word, and it doesn't like hit the spot of where, I don't know, where anybody will take me serious, because probably when I say the word, they're kind of like, like that doesn't even like sound like you're scolding me or doing any of that. And it's like, well, that's the way I'm going to say it. But everything else I'm going to talk about, it's going to hit you where it needs to hit you. And so me replacing cuss words for myself, it's just, I know for the most part, the things that I'm trying to get across, if it's going to get across, it's going to get across, because especially working with the youth, like there's things I'm going to say that they're not even going to pay attention. So the biggest thing is all about sowing the seed. And that's all pretty much that I'm going to do, is sow that seed.
Correct.
So one of the last questions was, how does all this fit together, like God in your creative journey? So back in early 2000s, you started doing, I guess it's more what, etching? Is that what it would have been?
Yeah.
Okay, so you did etching for quite a bit of time, and then you stopped doing that.
Yeah.
So you stopped doing that. Still there? Oh, here we go. Oh, can you see me? Some technical difficulty. Let's see. I am having technical difficulties. All right. I think we're back at it. Back at it. Sorry, everyone. We are having technical difficulties.
No worries. Yeah, well, how does it all fit together? It and I like the way you worded it, journey, because it's not over yet.
Nope.
It's
Never will be.
It's been in different stages. So like before, I would do a lot of my work would be kind of dark. For being in a dark place, and then around 2012, 2013, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do nothing that's not gonna glorify God. And then I even went so far to do stuff that was like, you know, uh, verses, John 3:16 and things like that. But then part of me felt when I was doing that, part of me felt a little bit like I'm trying to make money off of God. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Remember you talking about that.
yeah, I just picture Jesus knocking over the table, you know what I mean, at the church, you know. So I went back to doing just the art that I like to do. You know, I like to keep it rated PG, you know. But that's just with the art. As far as the journey itself, man, it's you know, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't glorify God. You know what I mean? I don't preach on social media or anything of that nature. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but I like to leave little subliminal messages, to say the least. You know, so at least with the hashtags and everything, you know, let people know that where I stand. You know what I mean? So
Almost like the whole glory to God and stay blessed and God is good. And
yeah, and I'm not saying that makes you a great Christian just doing that, you know,
but you're letting people know where you stand. I
I
feel.
let them know where I stand without shoving it down their throat. You know what I mean? And sometimes people it's a trip when it comes to others, because sometimes people won't really even realize you're a Christian until they put two and two together. It's like, oh man, you know, the way you carry yourself. You know what I mean? And you know, if the opportunity presents itself, oh man, of course, you know. But the journey is not over yet. Still growing. Like I mentioned earlier, right now, kind of feel a little bit like a backslider, because I don't pray or read the Bible as much as I used to, and I'm not trying to defend that, justify that, or anything like that. So the journey's still going, brother.
And like you just said, like with the word journey, I think it has the meaning behind it of that it's not over. And so even at that, like you can continue to push back all that and just continue like right where you were. You know what I mean? Like, because I get like that at times, but then what I have to realize is like, okay, well, yesterday was yesterday and today's today. So what am I going to do now? Because if not, then I'm going to continue to, I'll probably sulk in it like, man, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And then that's all I'm going to be thinking about rather than actually just doing it, because that's what it comes down to. We just need to just do it. And I think that's definitely like a process, but I think it's a process that we need to go through.
Well, you know, I mean, we already know what it's like to think we know everything, or to, you know what I mean, or to try to go down the let me justify this. We already know that. You know what I mean? So and once you know God, once those scales come off your eyes, it's very difficult to go back, at least in a good conscience. You know, the Holy Spirit will convict you, you know, if you slip up, you know what I mean? And yeah, man.
And that's the one thing that I don't like, but I love it. I don't like being convicted, but I love it because I know the Holy Spirit is dwelling in me. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, check this out, Winslow. Look, man. I'll share this with you guys before we close out. You know, with the whole, especially nowadays with the internet and whatnot. You know, it's almost a little bit like how they say drinking alcohol brings out who you really are. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes it can bring out who you are, and what I mean by that is like, you know, not necessarily, you know, showing the car I have and all that, but your spirit can be revealed. You know what I mean? And so sometimes I'll do something like, oh man, but it's like, you know what? Let it ride, man, because you know, if someone's gonna think you're a hypocrite, if you did something hypocritical, then there it is. You know what I'm saying? But I guess what I was gonna say was, you know, with the whole internet, with can, I can understand a little bit or you know,
Difficulties. Hmm. So far, I'm hoping you guys are getting um, some good, I guess, ideas, especially if you're thinking about just all out, just quitting like your job or something like that, or whatever the case may be. Maybe follow some of the stuff that Hilario was talking about, like maybe have a set plan and kind of get down to
Sorry about that, man.
no worries. Kind of get down to like what you need before you actually jump full force into it, which there is nothing wrong with jumping full force into it, but just know that there are going to be a lot of ups and downs. Just like Hilario was talking about a little bit. And that's one thing that we're trying to get people away from, is trying to not take too many steps to get to the final goal. Taking less steps to me is, in a sense, like a little bit less maybe stressful, a little less overwhelming, and just having that plan in order for you to start whatever journey that you're going to be starting, whether it be automotive engraving, whether it be starting a podcast, whether it be becoming an artist, like a fine arts painter, whatever the case may be. Like it's definitely good to think things through. But at the same time, like as you have your job, um, continue with it and try a million things if you want, and see which, almost in a sense, like which one sticks, which one that you're most happy with. Because for the most part, since I've known Hilario, it's always, and we've always had discussions like this. Like we didn't want to do too many things where it was like, oh, we're gonna quilt blankets and we're going to do landscape design. A little bit different. Both can be good, but they're a little bit different. So how we always used to think was like, okay, so like for myself, like, okay, because I started doing like engraving with Hilaria also. And so it was always that I wanted to keep everything kind of the same rather than going at a bunch of different aspects of, I guess, different creative endeavors. And I feel like if it's all the same, things will typically make whatever you're trying to do a lot better. Because remember when we were trying to do like this and then that and then this, and they're kind of like all different things, and we're like feeling like we're stretching ourselves like too far to the left or too far to the right. But then when we come to like narrow it down a little bit more, I get niche it down a little bit more, then it in turn it'll make a lot of things that you're doing a lot better. So for you, it would be from etching to sandblasting, did a little bit of tattoos, and then automotive engraving. And then you just like kind of like with the automotive engraving, what I've seen is that you just kind of perfected and did your own get down of like scroll work, and then how you're going to set up the scroll work into where you're going to put it, how you're going to size it. And that's what I think makes your scroll work good, is because you've practiced that. I get, what would that, practice that, not design, but practice that niche, I guess.
Well, yeah, well, like anything, you stick to it and practice. You practice, try hard enough, you'll eventually get it, or close to it, or. Yeah, brother. Yeah, I remember trying different things, trying to find a way, that trying to find your niche, you know, and you're right. That was all part of the journey as well. Sometimes I say we, I know I do it a lot, but I don't want to think I'm the only one. We can compare ourselves to others, and kind of maybe not feel like we're doing adequate, because maybe someone else our age or whatnot seems to be way more successful, and I know that's happened to me where I've seen people my age like, man, but at the same time, it's like, hey, I don't know what they've been through in their life to get them where they are. And at the end of the day, not to sound too cheesy or cliche, but I really firmly believe this, that counting our blessings is so important. You know what I mean? I don't know how many times I've heard people say they would give anything for one more day with their, with the loved one. You know what I mean? And yeah, very very blessed. It's but it's a journey. It has ups, it has downs. Uh, but the good thing is that when when you know, or however they word it, when God knows you, when you know God, that at the end of the day, you know, uh, worry, us worrying doesn't change anything. You know, we know that if we the if we're able to get up and walk, if we have some food in the fridge, if we have transportation to get to where we got to get, if we have a means of providing for our families, you know, um, all those are awesome blessings that can be taken for granted. So we can, especially now with social media, you know, uh, you can see where, well, I can understand where people can get even depressed, even, because you're seeing people's highlight reels and whatnot, and you're comparing yourself to them.
And it's
But when
weird because that's all it is. It's their highlight reels. So we see ourselves, but we see like the whole reel. Um, but I'm sure if we chose our highlight reels, I'm sure it's going to be pretty well. And I'm sure there's probably going to be somebody that's out there that's going to be like, man, I wish I was like Lugo. But it's like, all this is, it's first of all, it's a glimpse into yourself. And for a lot of people, it's a glimpse into their best self. It's not the glimpse into their overall self. It's just whatever they're like, oh, well, this is who I am. And this is all that I am. When it's kind of like, I kind of doubt that. Like there's probably a lot of flaws in whatever the case may be, but some people aren't as transparent as they should be because social media is just like out there, and it's really easy for us to just like look at it and be like, man, that's where I should be. Like I need to do this or I need to do that. And it's like, no, we just kind of need to do us, like, and like nobody else.
Well, yeah, there's truth to that, Winslow. You know, but it's like anything else. In the flesh or in the secular world, there's a million ways to look at it. But when we're talking about the spiritual, you know, you'll catch yourself when if we compare. It's easy when we compare ourselves to others. Like we can feel bad, or like if they have something we don't want, or we can make ourselves feel better by comparing ourselves to people who we think
Oh,
sin worse than us. You know what I mean? But
and then that's when
whenever we compare ourselves to Jesus, is like game over. You know what I mean?
and that's the ultimate one that we should be comparing ourselves to, but that's not the person. We'll be comparing it to like Sally and John it's like, well, I'm not as bad as them. And that's something that we've talked about before, but that's like sometimes what we do is like, well, I'm not as bad as them, so I'm on the right path. And it's like, like, okay, like slowly on the right path, but let's just pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
Man.
Hilario. So is there any last words that you would like to tell the viewers or anybody out there
Hey,
that
man.
listens to this for years to come?
Well, I don't know about the years to come. Well, yeah, years to come. Check this out, man. Follow, like the Creative Whole podcast. Very positive show. I haven't had the pleasure to meet Carlos, but just based on what I see in the show, he seems like a really good dude. You know what I mean? And I know for a fact that Winslow is. You know what I mean? So hey, give him a follow, give him a like, show some support, and stay blessed.
So anything that that's up and coming in your realm right now?
Oh man, I have some online classes coming on Facebook that I'll be. I do a little bit of shameless self-promoting on social media, so please forgive me. It's just or the excuse I use is just business. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll be doing some affordable online classes if anyone's interested in learning engraving.
So is it also at Lugos _engraving on Facebook also?
That one, I'm still ironing it all out.
Okay.
So once I get ready to launch, I'll put out all that information. So hopefully the end of this month, the beginning of next month, we should have all the wrinkles ironed out.
So for the most part, any classes or anything that you're going to be teaching, are you going to put it up on your Instagram? Whether it's going on Facebook, Instagram, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, well, the online ones, I'll post those dates and whatnot. But I do offer private lessons. I usually teach those on the weekend. So if someone's interested in learning some one-on-one, learning how to engrave, I can either do private classes in my home or we could do them online.
And you've done them online already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty, guys. Thank you for checking us out. And we hope that Carlos feels better. And thanks for joining us on another episode of the Creative Whole podcast. Check us out on all the major podcasting platforms. Thanks, everybody, and peace out. Thanks, guys. Love you.